I love this animation. It's beautiful.
Oh,
nice,
pretty.
nice. Really love that. Like we have hummingbirds in our backyard too, and this is really nice slow motion and really, really nice.
Yeah.
Nicely framed. I'm actually amazed,
you see them all slowed down. They're so elegant, you know?
Yeah, and even on the video, when you're, recasting this, it still comes through really good.
Yeah.
Sometimes videos don't come through, but this is really good.
The wing beats are from 50 to 80 a second.
A second. Wow.
Depending upon the size of the bird.
Dan, what's the deal on, sometimes they take a break. They have to flap their wings to keep their body temperature up, I understand, right? Isn't it right?
It's part of their maneuvering. Basically, they're always looking for nectar, whether it be a feeder or it be natural from flowers. They also look for little tiny insects, spiders and so forth.
Because they really like our lilies. We have a whole bunch of lilies in our backyard.
Oh, absolutely.
And they just go, they do their rounds, they go from one to the next, and you can see their pattern. Sometimes they come up to the windows actually, and they see their reflection in the mirror, and they kind of hang out within, like, really close to the windows. That's really neat when that happens.
That's cool. You can see it blink its eye.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that shows how fast the wings are compared to its eye blink. Wow.
If you ever see the male dive up and then dive down on top of the female, he dives around 40 miles an hour.
Whoa. Yeah, I always see when they're coordinating each other, I see them kind of going up and down.
Yep.
They go up and down and dive around. It's really, really neat.
Hey Annie, tell Heath to send me his video.
Hey Heath.
Heath got some video yesterday of a hummingbird with a close-up of a hummingbird at a feeder.
Oh, yeah?
And I was going to put it in the show for tomorrow, but I'm not going to have time to embed it in the slide, I don't think. But I'm trying to, maybe I can if he gets it to me real quick. It's a really cool video. And it's so close you can hear it. It's pretty cool. Is he on it, Annie?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Tyler to tell him because he's in Alex's office.
What other two binoculars do you have?
The focus on this thing is so perfect too. I think he thinks the logo's like a flower or something.
Yeah, that's really well placed.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, worldwide, they've identified 337 species of hummingbirds, believe it or not.
Wow. Good. As far as I'm concerned, we cannot have too many hummingbirds.
You're correct about that. Mm-hmm. And in Arkansas, you only have one species.
Aw.
Yep.
Kind of stuck with that, huh?
Colorado, we've got 4.
Do they migrate much, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was wondering because there's a couple, when it gets nasty here in the winter, I hope they're finding a nice shelter somewhere else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, hello everybody. This is Scott Roberts with Explore Scientific, and our programming changed for today. Normally, we have our First Light Chronicle program, along with our member minutes with Annie Scarborough and our Camstronomy program. Annie and Cameron are both with us today, but also with us is Kent Martz and Dan George. And so we're going to take a moment to cover some things with Annie for Explore Alliance membership, and then we'll jump right into Kent and Dan.
Well, hello, everybody. It's been a little crazy week. So we are still working on that bold membership. We've had a little couple of errors with it and trying to just figure out the program, but But people are signing up on there, and so that's really good. I've been, I had the pleasure, Scott gave me some testimonials from a dark sky party from the Arizona one. And so I've been able
Yeah,
to
the
read,
Arizona Dark Sky Star Party.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to, I've started reading through some of those. And so hopefully the idea is that we're going to get a, just a testimonial page up for customers and members to be able to go on there and just
Mhm.
tell us their experience.
Get a
You know,
feel for
yeah.
the Star Party.
Yeah.
That Star Party is going to happen, I think, next September, not this September, but next September,
Yeah.
2022. You know, it'll be, we had already a pretty cool program already lined out where we were going to go into the University of Arizona Mirror Making Lab, where they make some of the world's largest telescope mirrors. And of course, we would be doing astronomy, astrophotography from a dark sky site at Kartchner Cavern State Park.
Yeah, and then we also have I'm in the process of creating a go-to community committee. We're going to have a page dedicated to just them. I know
the
a lot
steering
of
committee, right?
Yep, a steering committee, and we are going to sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, so we're going to be able to have focus on that, and so our committee will be able to, you know, people will be able to learn about our committee and
Right.
how our go-to community started
Right.
and things like that. And so
That steering committee is there to help drive product development, features, benefits of the you know, the firmware and software that runs the PMC8 system. So, you know, we wanted that to be something that was developed not only from, you know, inside with our engineers, but with the steering committee itself, and with the you know, the feature suggestions that was put forward from the open go-to community on groups.io. So, you know, because we really want, you know, we don't want to be the ones that decide everything of how go-to technology works. We want that to be something that is co-developed by a community of experts and also by just the wants and needs of amateur astronomers.
yeah, and we I know we have quite of our members actually own that PMCA mount, and we're working on a survey to go out so we can kind of, because we you know, we have a steering committee, but we also know that we have a lot of customers and members that work with that system. And so we want to know what their thoughts and their, you know, process of whatever's going on, or how they're liking it, you know, if they're updating and all that stuff. So there's a lot of background stuff happening. It's always going around here. But and then Scott has a pretty amazing thing on his desk, and I pulled one for just for somebody very special, and so we were going to send it out, and I realized that we had 10 of these, and I asked Scott if we could offer them to our Explorer Alliance members only, but they come in this amazing little blue box, so it comes in that, and then this is what it is. It is a 3D etched. Can you see that? It's a 3D etched.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's an ED 152.
Uh-huh.
Cameron, this was what they did is they imported the SolidWorks file, okay, for, you know, how they designed
Yeah,
it. So it is
the
exactly to scale. Okay?
Yeah, it is. It is
Cool.
pretty. To see it in person is pretty amazing. I mean, I get distracted by it
You
sometimes.
can almost look through its eyepiece.
Yeah.
You know?
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's
it's
beautiful.
absolutely. It's got a galaxy, and it has our Explore Scientific, and then you know, and then of course the ED 152. But the value of it's about $99, and so we're going to offer it to our Explore Alliance members for $59. So if you want one, you need to email me at explorealliance@explorescientific.com, and we'll get that taken care of and sent out. But there's only 10 of them. That's all we have. And
Right.
so,
We currently right now have over, I think, 1,100 members. So if you're a member, you want to get this, you better snatch it up.
real fast. It's beautiful. You'll be amazed if you get it and get it home and be like, oh my gosh. Cause like I said, I get distracted sometimes by it in Scott's office, but yeah, that's pretty much what's going on with Explore Alliance and members and things like that. So.
Annie, you've been doing some learning too, haven't you?
Oh gosh. Yes, yesterday required a lot of coffee, and I got the bottom of the pot, unfortunately, because everybody in customer service decided to have some without me. But
What'd you learn about?
I learned how to install a polar finder scope.
There you go.
And then I learned, what did you call it? Now I'm
Putting you on the spot.
yes.
So you learned how to properly install it so you could use the setting circles.
Yes.
Right?
And then I went in and did, I collimated them out.
So you collimated the polar finder scope so its axis is exactly parallel with the polar axis of the mount. So that makes you get a better polar alignment.
So here's the real question. Could you do it again, Annie?
I actually could do it again.
Okay.
With the instructions.
Okay.
I think
No.
That's a lot, really,
No, I could do it again.
installing it, you couldn't. I'd have to have the directions to install it
You could
correctly.
do it with your eyes shut, Annie.
No, yes, I'm that fast of a learner.
I think she could do the collimation without the instructions.
You know what I learned? The one thing I learned was how to drop an Allen wrench. That's what I learned through that whole process, the proper way of dropping an Allen wrench on the floor. No, it was really amazing. I am, as I don't know if most people know, I am not a seasoned an astronomer at all.
You're gonna be. You're gonna be.
So everybody throws me into the frying pan, and that's the way it's been from the beginning, but I've swam and made it. And so, but it's amazing. It is amazing and fun to get your hands on it and figure it out and learn. And so, it's just really neat, especially as you get older. It's like, oh, I learned something new today.
Get older. You're only what, 20? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Thanks. My birthday's really soon, and that makes me feel good.
Be 21.
No,
Okay.
21. I'm going to stay 20.
That's right. You can go drinking, I guess. Well, that's very cool. Thank you so much, Annie. If we'll have to shoot a video, I guess, of Annie doing her first polar alignment, so we can maybe talk more about that tomorrow. We're gonna do the First Light Chronicles tomorrow instead of on the wing because today we had to change the schedule just a little bit. So which is cool. So I'm just going to turn this right over to Dan and Kent at this point, and you guys are going to talk about
Birds in flight.
Birds in flight. I think you even had some bald eagles in there, right?
I do. Yep.
They're famous here in Arkansas. So
Annie, there's Harold Locke has a message. He tried to update his Explorer Alliance information, and he can't figure out if it was updated enough. So you might get with Harold Locke after the show to sort out what's going on with him.
Okay, I can do that. No worries.
Martin Eastburn wants you to wear an Explorer Alliance lab coat.
When I'm working on the mount.
When you work on the mount, when you're on camera, whatever, so.
Hey, I think everybody learns around here. I actually have a pretty good sense of humor, and I probably would do it, whatever it is.
We'll have to buy a lab coat for you and put the Explorer Alliance logo on it.
Sounds great.
Wow, beautiful.
So that's our opening slide, and here we go. We'll get started. If I can make this go. Come on, there we go.
On the wing with Dan George.
And George. I'm still working with our video guy to get
sound.
Slow. Yeah, I don't know. It was really slow this time. So, uh-oh. Everything for the American Kestral is gone for the map and the sound.
Except the
Uh-oh.
picture is a good picture.
It's a great
Yeah.
picture.
Great picture. Let's just
Okay.
wing it this
So
time.
we're gonna wing it this time. So,
Oh, jeez.
so the
What-
picture
what a
of it, the picture of it flying is gone too. Huh. That's weird. Okay, so anyway, we had a picture of two American kestrels flying. It was spectacular. One was on a, I'm describing it to you. One was on a dead branch of what looked like an oak tree, and the kestrel was flying, in a launch, had just launched off another branch. If you look closely at this one, it is holding what looks like a vole or a field mouse or some kind of furry mammal.
Oh yeah, it's a mouse, I think.
Yeah, it's mouse of some sort. Dan, what you got for us?
Actually, if we could see the back of that bird, we could identify it as a male or female. The male has a fantastic gray nape and back, but the female is just modeled like this particular bird's breast. Another thing, you will see this is a very common bird out on off of dirt roads or wires or whatever. And they're only about, they're 10.5 inches long. And when they fly, their wings come to a V. See, like that, like that. All falcons' wings come to a point. So, because there are other birds that are this size that are a hawk that are not falcons, and their wings are outspread like that rather than at a point.
Why
I'm not
is,
real good on TV, guys, but there are ways you can tell the male and the female, and there's a way to identify it as a kestrel. So a kestrel is named American kestrel, but it is part of the falcon family, and there are actually about 5 other falcons in the United States, North America.
so I'll have that falcon flying picture and the sound on our next week's show. They were there a minute ago. I dropped in a video of some just now of a hummingbird, and I must have inadvertently killed the slide. Let's hope I didn't kill any more.
This bird also does a lot of hunting of passerine birds. In other words, birds that are like less than 7 inches long that fly around to feeders and stuff like that. So one of their primary foods, other than voles and rats, and not rats, but mice, would actually be birds on the wing.
Yeah,
Wow.
I have seen one time I was out at our farm and some quick movement caught my eye, and I glanced up just in time to see not sure what it was. I wasn't paying that much attention. It happened so fast. It flew into a tree, and then you heard some terrible squawking, and it flew off with a blackbird and flew off. I couldn't really, it was probably a red-tailed hawk, but they flew off up into a tree, and the hawk had its lunch, and the screaming went on for a little bit, and then it was over with.
Let me add a comment to that, Kent. It's unlikely that it would have been a red-tailed hawk. Red-tailed hawks, because of their size of being 20 inches long, they don't have much maneuverability. Okay. However, a kestrel, and then the family of little, there's a small species of hawks that are like about 10 to 12 inches long. Their maneuverability is great. So the smaller the bird, the more maneuverability. And if it's a predator, that's probably what got it. Was probably one of the other hawks. I'll get the name for you.
Okay. Yeah, it just happened so fast. You didn't have time to see it wham into the tree, and out the other side it comes with a blackbird that was not happy about the situation. And again, it's like those the robins that died in the nest. It's the cycle of life. For us to have those beautiful hawks, they have to eat stuff. So moving along, here we go. This is a American bald eagle gathering nesting material, and it's from the rear, a different shot. And there are 2 sparrows, what I think are sparrows. One probably a white-throated, can't really identify the other. One is right here by the video we're getting ready to play, and the other's up here over here on the left side. So there's multiple birds in that. Here we go. Let's listen. Now, this is interesting. The video is a fox attacking a bald eagle nest. So a fox has apparently climbed this tree, and eagle nests are never low on the ground. And you don't think about foxes as being, tree climbers, but clearly they are. Here we go.
Very familiar sound. He doesn't mind the wind at all.
No, I don't care.
No.
They love it.
And then, I've watched these, they kept a screen up of bald eagle nest over the years, and just awesome to watch the birds, bring in the chicks hatch and watch the birds bring in food and eat. So
Let me
Yeah, they're majestic.
make a couple of comments about the bald eagle. For those that didn't watch our program, I think 2-3 weeks ago, we talked about the bald eagle. There it is. Great sound. And
let me turn that.
remember now, all 900 to 1,000 birds in North America have their own individual sound. So when you hear that sound, it's a bald eagle and not a golden eagle. For those that didn't see our program, the white tail and the white head on bald eagles, takes the 5th year of their feathering to change. So from the 4th to the 5th year, the head and the tail become nice and white. Prior to that, it looks just like a big freaking bird.
Just a really big, nondescript. They have some coloring, some modeling sometimes.
The interesting thing about eagles, the 2 primary ones in North America would be the golden eagle and then the bald eagle. But the bald eagle is obviously our national bird. But it has a 4 to 5 foot wide wingspan. I got to spit that out. So it's a pretty large bird. It's about 2 to 4 inches, 2 to 4 feet long.
And that gives you an idea how big the nest is.
Sort of. It's still hard to get a sense of scale of these things. You almost need like someone standing next to it,
Yeah, but
because they're huge.
yeah, imagine the wings are 5 from tip to tip. So imagine a 5 foot tall person's
So you could curl up in a ball and sit inside that nest, right?
Oh yeah.
easily.
The nests are usually from 6 to 10 feet wide, and they can be as deep as 5 feet, as high as 10 feet, and sometimes they weigh more than a ton.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
these are not
That's a
small
lot.
branches. And
These
so,
are right, Kent. You're right. They're not.
Good construction material. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
think about a robin building a nest with twigs, which are same size. The bald eagles are using what to them are twigs, but to the rest of the birds are big branches. And clearly, these pictures were taken at nearly the same time. So they were in late winter. The bird was gathering material to line their nest, and it looks like in preparations for laying some eggs. So it was gathering material and flying to the nest and putting in this smaller, fluffier stuff for the eaglets to grow up in.
I love how when he has his wings fully extended and all the feathers flared out, like it's like
Right.
full
Yeah.
maneuvering mechanism. He has all of his aerodynamic feelers out just to do all the fine tuning. It's just amazing.
And the tail is down, almost like flaps on an airplane.
Yeah, like a helicopter almost.
Yeah,
Right.
generating more lift. Yeah, absolutely. you know, and many times you hear a bald eagle and the overlay in the video, and let's just face it, TV doesn't do a good job of getting anything right, but most shows overlay the call of a hawk because the bald eagle sounds just aren't as dramatic and don't tell the story as much. And so you can find all sorts of examples online that I found looking for this sound of bald eagles flying, but a hawk sound overlaid on it because it just
sounds too wimpy, I guess.
Yeah,
huh?
too wimpy. It's sort of like in astronomy. It drives me crazy to see the moon in the wrong, you're running backwards because you know
Telescope set up backwards.
Yeah, stuff like that. They just,
Yeah.
you know, they just get it wrong. So Dan,
Worse
you know,
is the equatorial mount. when they use
exactly.
an equatorial mount like an alphazim.
Yeah. So,
Right.
So Dan, you know, as we all know, the bald eagle was a very endangered species, and it has fulfilled. You know, it was on the endangered species list, and it has qualified to be taken off of it, but they don't want to take it off because of just the general status of it. But you know, there are nesting pairs in Benton County, and there's more every year. The bird is proliferating, it seems.
My understanding is that it is no longer on the endangered species list.
Okay. Although I have seen some stuff about some, you know, weird die-offs, you know, numbers of deaths in a couple places. One place in Arkansas down at Lake Washita, and they've attributed it to an algae of some sort that produces some, I think it was a neurotoxin. But the numbers of birds have just skyrocketed. And it was all because we banned DDT, if I remember correctly. DDT caused the eggshells to soften and get crushed, and so the eaglets, the eggs weren't hatching. Got anything more on the bald eagle, Dan?
Well, they say that, you know, if you just look online about bald eagles being endangered, they went from endangered to flourishing, is how it's described. Yeah. And they are of least concern at this time.
Yeah. I think it's probably been about 15 or 20 years. I was just trying to look on the computer here, but I can't multitask at this age, Scott, so I'm sorry about that.
That's what we're here for.
I try hard, though, as you know.
That's what we're here for.
And the theme of, obviously, this show, if you didn't catch this, is in flight. And so all the birds we're looking at are in flight.
That's really good.
And I think Terry Stanfield, this is one of my favorite pictures that Terry's gotten. You know, is she yelling at him to go get more food or get out of the house, or, you know, don't go play don't go bowling. You can't go bowling with the guys. You got to stay here.
All of the above.
You know what's she saying to him?
Right. You can't go to a star party.
I think what this shows, is a soon-to-be juvenile that's already about to fledge.
Okay.
Begging for food, and so both the female and the male are looking for worms, and mealworms and stuff like that to go back to the juvenile. So based on my experience, it looks like that bird's going to fledge when this presentation's over.
Pretty darn quick.
Really ready.
But once again,
look at the yellow on the bottom bill, the yellow. That's indicative of a juvenile bird.
Well, you're looking at it, it hadn't narrowed down yet. It still looks like a baby's mouth and not an adult's mouth. You know,
also, an interesting thing is, you know, most people know that there are bluebird boxes across the country because they've been not endangered, but they've been seriously eaten up by a lot of predators. But the hole there, I don't know exactly what it is, but if you were to buy a bluebird box at Walmart or a bluebird box online, they are always the identical diameter. Whatever that is.
It looks like a washer of some sort. It's what it looks like.
But the actual entry, the hole is the same because, you know, these ornithologists have learned it needs to be a specific size.
It's very precise. It says bluebirds should have a round hole entrance measuring 1.5 inches to 19/16 in diameter. That's pretty specific.
That's pretty specific.
And a lot of it is designed to keep other birds out too, I think is what it seems like I've read. You know,
like most predators.
yeah, you know, snakes obviously can get in there, but they want to keep cowbirds out and you know, starlings and other birds that will raid the nest. I know Heath Creekmore, one of the CSRs, has put up a bluebird box last week, and it's already got a nest built in it. And he's now seen house sparrows hanging around it and trying to get in it, and the bluebirds are driving them off. So, and this is going to be an interesting experiment. He's building a live bird trap for house sparrows. And so he's going to try and deal with the invasive house sparrow and be able to release all the other birds he catches. But
I'd love to hear that, buddy. Those house sparrows are crazy stupid.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And he's going to do some videotaping of it, and it'll end up being on the show at some point. So let's listen to the Eastern Bluebird song. And with those waves in the background, this can put you to sleep.
It's got a beautiful tone.
I was just going to say, very therapeutic.
There's actually 4 different species of bluebirds in North America, and they all have that similar modulation, that really, really nice sound. So this is an Eastern bluebird, which means that the throat is red, right, Kent?
Yep.
Okay. So if you were to see the Western bluebird, it's the same, except the throat is blue, which is really cool. And then the mountain bluebird is all powder blue, front and back.
You know, and again, this is a good time. You know, most of my pictures are coming from the Eastern United States and Arkansas. But, you know, for you people out there listening and seeing this, if you've got pictures or video of birds in your area in the mountains or along the coast, send them to Explore Alliance at explorescientific.com, and we will use them. In fact, next week's show is going to be all viewer submitted images. And I've got a little bit of room, so if somebody sends me a few more, we'll have all viewer submitted images next week. So
I like that.
This sound goes on for 1 hour and 7 minutes, so that bluebird must just sit there and sang and sang and sang. As you can see, the map is why it's called an Eastern bluebird. It's in the eastern 2/3 of the United States. You know, interesting that it moves a little bit west in winter. I found that sort of, you know, but the farm my son has is covered up with bluebirds. And I'm going to spend some time building some bluebird boxes for them as well. So I just love this picture, you know. And again, the wings fully extended and the feathers stretched out. Just a beautiful picture. It's Terry God. And we really appreciate him letting us use his pictures.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Canada goose. So I'm going to go through this real quick. You know, you look at it, you go, look, Mom, I can fly on my side. And the other one goes, yeah, hold my beer. Watch this. That Canada goose
It's upside down.
is flying upside down with its head fully rotated up, effectively nearly in correct position. So it's literally turned its neck all the way around, and it said to its mom, to its friend, "Hold my beer, watch this." And this bird is flying upside down.
That is wild.
Which, you know, in flight, it only happens for just a little bit because I've seen it, but you don't really think about what you saw. It happened so quick. Did it really happen? And I love these.
Let me add a comment to that.
Yeah.
Typically, this is the habit of the Canada goose and also the greater white-fronted goose when they're approaching a landing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when they're coming down, that's their way to slow. If they're really going fast, they're going to have to go sideways or upside down or whatever to slow down because they gotta land wherever they're planning on landing. Another thing I want to mention that when we're in this particular screen right here, when it comes to bird identification, in case you have not heard it, birders will make reference to the GIS. This is GISS, an acronym for General Impression of Shape and Size. So you're looking at, obviously, the size of this bird is not a duck. It's a goose, because if you have some reference about the size, they're pretty large. They're 43 inches in wingspan. But anyway, so you can take a look at the general shape and the general size, and your general impression oftentimes are helpful in identifying a particular bird in flight.
And these birds are coming in for a landing because you can see them right here. This bird is not flapping its wings. It's got its landing flaps set, and they're coming down.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
This bird has its landing flap set. This bird is
Landing
getting
gear
there.
down.
This
Yeah.
bird is getting there as
The
well.
aileron,
So they're getting ready to land probably on water, knowing where this picture was taken. They're probably going to make a water landing. So the Canada goose is probably a sound that lots and lots of people have heard, but
Very familiar.
Yeah.
You hear them at night, actually, when I'm setting up my scope, and that they like to fly at night. I noticed that.
Yeah.
So you'll hear a whole bunch of them fly overhead, and it's like you can hear this sound.
and I'm going to do one episode on at some point in the near future on the Doppler radar and how they've determined the mass migrations almost always happen at night. And I'm going to focus on some of that science here in a couple of weeks.
This is where light pollution's got to take a toll on
And-
these things.
Correct. Light pollution comes into play as well. But, lots of snow geese migrate through here, and it's almost always at night, and you hear them, and they're way up there, but yet you can hear these giant flocks of thousands of birds flying over in this continuous stream that just goes on for hours and hours, and just a massive number of birds. You can hear them because they're loud, but the same thing happens on nights with little songbirds that you can't hear from, 2 miles away. So very unique sound. Then, these birds live a long time, as this slide says, 10 to 25 years, and they are monogamous. What else do you know about them, Dan?
Well, I also know that whenever they, when a bird roosts, it means it's going to bed that night, right? It's always on a pond, or always on a river, or always on a lake, to keep the predators from eating them up. But in the daytime, you'll see they'll, 1,000 or 2,000 one time will get up with a nice little thermal, and they'll find grass, farmland, and love to eat grass. So basically, they only land in water. They only roost in water.
Geese tend to be more like cattle, and they graze, whereas ducks tend to be more like fish, and they stay in the water and feed in the water much more.
Good distinction. Good distinction.
One's like cattle, and one's like fish.
Yeah. Steve Malia says that we don't call these geese, we don't call them geese in Canada. We call them hissing cobra chickens.
I can see that, because if you have ever been around
And I have. They're mean.
And
they're mean. Oh my God.
It's fun. It's sad, but it's also somewhat fun after it's over to watch somebody get flogged by a big old goose. It's brutal. Those things can hurt you bad.
Yeah.
Those wings are brutal, and they're, bad. Now, when I was growing up, and I'm 58, when I was growing up in Northwest Arkansas, the only time we saw Canada geese was in winter. And then somebody had the brilliant idea of getting some Canada geese eggs and having them hatch in the South. And we now have year-round Canada geese, which the area is not engineered for, and they overwhelm parks and golf courses, and some of the lakes around here have the swimming areas get closed because of so much goose dropping that the water gets so much E. coli they have to close the swim beaches on the Corps of Engineers lakes, and so we now have year-round Canada geese, which is with no predator control can be a big problem. And in fact, there are cities that get permits to oil the eggs on the nest so that they won't hatch. And so as long as the eggs are on the nest, the Canada goose will sit there and try and incubate them. And so if you just steal or break the eggs, the geese will relay. And the programs around here get permits to oil, as many nests as they can find. And over the years, the geese have sort of figured it out, and they've begun hiding their nest. I know one of the guys that does it. Used to be he could just canoe and find them, but now the geese are hiding their nests in these places. So the resident geese are figuring out something's going on. So anyway, hold my beer. I'm going to do this. And watching the bird fly upside down is just spectacular. All right. So these are another goose in flight. These are white-fronted geese, otherwise known as specks or speckle-belly geese. And here we go. Now, these are greater white-fronted geese. There's a lesser white-fronted goose as well.
Probably South America.
That's the bird I'm familiar with. You can see this picture real well. And if you look on this one right here, you can see really well the stripes. They're almost like rows of black lines that give it its distinct markings in flight. What do you got, Dan?
The only thing I can really add is that both them and the Canada goose is about 28 inches long. They're just a good size, and they're always in huge flocks. And the greater white-fronted goose is not exactly found too much on the East Coast, but they are from the central states all the way up to Alaska.
Mm.
The place I see them most is mixed in with white-fronted geese. I mean, with snow geese.
Yes.
When snow geese migrate, they migrate in mixed flocks with specks and a few of the other more not widespread geese with a few lower populations. But a speckle belly in flight coming down for landing is a very obvious bird versus the various phases of the snow geese. But just a beautiful bird, with the lines on the belly, spectacular bird. And it's, when there's a flock of 10 or 20,000 geese, you can't really pick out the specks call because it's just a cacophony of just noise. And it's just a ginormous, every bird is honking and cackling and whatever it is they're doing.
So somebody asked, is there a goose nebula or constellation out there in space? And the answer is yes. There's something called Barnard 163, and it's called the Landing Goose. So,
Well, you can also, a swan is not a goose, but there's no reason why Cygnus, is not. You could see it as a goose. I mean, it's a goose, a swan, same shape, slightly different birds, and swans are typically much larger. And I'm working on getting a picture of a trumpeter swan. We've had some pass through a few years ago, and I've got some pictures, and Terry does too. I've been trying to get those to show as well. Spectacular birds. So, completely different sound than the Canada goose. right, so here is video that Heath Creekmore got in his backyard, and be watching from the top right, just past the up in this neck of the woods. You're going to see one come in at about 40 miles an hour. I mean, it's covering territory. It's a female, probably ruby throat, but he's not sure. But this is just pretty cool. So here we go.
Where did that one?
And hang on just a minute. He's going to slow it down so you can see it to half speed. See its tongue going in and out?
Mm-hmm.
The tongue is almost as long as its beak. And is that in Arkansas?
Yes.
Yes.
So it is a ruby throated.
Yeah, it almost has to be.
Has to be.
So just watch how fast this thing comes in. Let's watch this one more time. And I've just seen it. You know where to watch up here, right in here. So that's pretty cool.
I can
So-
give you a little anecdotal story quickly. I live south of Denver, about 30 miles in Castle Rock, and I have my feeder up, and we mainly have broadtail, but we also have the rufous and calliope and another one too. But anyway, sometimes a raccoon finds my feeder and drains it. So I put on my Apple Watch, my reminder here, every night at 9 o'clock, I say, bring in nectar. So every night I bring that thing in because, you know, once a week, the raccoons are going to totally drain it.
I've heard of people doing the same thing for bears in bear country.
Oh, that's dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just to keep the bears from coming around. You know, and you see things about colored water, you know, being bright red and attracting them. But everything I read now is just make up a simple straight mixture of water and sugar, a simple syrup, and go on down the road. And
The ingredients is 4 parts water, 1 part sugar.
okay,
Boil it until there's no more granules, and then, you know, cool it off and then pour it.
And one of the things is try and have ant prevention, because ants love sugar water, and they can cause trouble for the birds on the feeder. Keep the feeder clean, and you know, don't let the sugar water ferment. You know.
Yeah, you don't want drunk hummingbirds.
That's exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't think they drink it. I think it becomes nasty enough that they quit coming, and that's not what you want.
You got to change it at least once a week.
Right.
It's moldy.
And wash the tray. It's not just change the liquid. Wash the tray, because if it's moldy in the tray, it's very quickly going to contaminate the new product.
Soap and water, hot
Soap
water.
and water. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought he showed me that video a little while ago, and I was like, "That's cool. I want to put it on the in flight, because clearly that bird is in flight, and it's cool. You can see its tongue coming in and out, and they just I think, you know, they run a circuit, and it's pretty cool. A newspaper I worked at, we had a couple of hummingbird feeders up, and the males, there'd be one dominant male that would run everybody off, just continuously trying to chase everybody off. And then one day in very late summer, everybody was at every drinking port, and that's when the bird had decided, I've got to let everybody fuel up because migration is coming. And it's amazing that literally in one day, and it was typically the ladies up there had it written down, and I don't remember the details, but they started logging the day, and it was as regular as clockwork. Within a week or so, the male would quit being dominant and let everybody come to the feeder, and then one day all the birds would be gone. And
Conversely, is that my first 20 years, I used to keep track as to when migratory birds would come in or actually would leave. But you can also, like here in Colorado, you can put down April 20th or 21st. That's the day you'll see your first hummingbird coming back from either Mexico or Texas or one of the southern states.
You know, like the swans of Capistrano regular.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. You know, and it was very regular. You know, it was within days that they would show up. And, you know, here in the spring, there's always people who
Talking about the swallows of San Juan Capistrano.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
Really?
yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. You remember when we were kids? I mean, it was in our textbooks about the regularity of that. But I guess conditions have changed, and they don't flock to San Juan like that anymore.
You know, purple martins are the same thing. I know people with purple martin houses, and they're always right down the first day they see the first scout show up, and then the first day the mated pairs show up, and you know, it just shows how attuned we can get to the rhythms of nature just by a little bit of observation and writing it down. Because, you know, like one of the Mythbusters says, the difference between play and science is when you're doing science, you write it down. So if you write down when you see birds and when things happen, you start, after a couple of years, you start finding this rhythm to life. And for the same reason why when certain moons rose, they knew it was harvest time or planting time, or when the sun rose at this point in the sky, they knew that winter had started. The sun had got as far south it was going to be in the northern hemisphere and start working. This is all about just paying attention to the rhythms of life around you. So anyway, that's the end of the slides, except for my finishing pretty slide. And this is a honeybee on wild geranium by Terry. So just a pretty picture of flowers and other flying critters to end our day. So that's it. Next week is user submitted photos. Send those in, everybody. And we've got some doves, some sparrows. Can't remember, but you have a variety pack from all around the country. So I'm looking for some more. I'd love to get all your pictures. Email address is explorealliance@explorescientific.com. Scott, I suppose you've put that in the chat, correct?
Explore Alliance, I can.
Yep. He's going to put that in the chat so everybody can see it. So anyway, Dan, thanks for your insights. I'm really enjoying doing this. I find myself every time I'm outdoors since I've started this, listening to the birds, and it's bringing me a great joy that had we not started this show, I would not have done. And it's added a dimension to my life that I really appreciate, and didn't know what I was missing until I started listening to all the different sounds and trying to remember them, eyeball the bird and figure out what sounds they're making and what bird they are. So launched me on a whole new hobby. Thanks a lot. And that's both.
Yeah, I did read up on the swallows in San Juan Capistrano. The reason why they're not coming back anymore, now I'd forgotten this because I used to live in the area. They did a remodel of the historic mission, part of the remodel or renovation or whatever. And part of that is removing nests from the overhangs. And when they did that, the swallows stopped coming. So
Newton's laws apply to a whole lot more than just physics. There's,
I can add one thing to that, Scott. Is that, I was about to reply 3 or 4 minutes ago that they actually still do come, but they don't go to that location because there's had to have been a difference in the structure. They're going to be somewhere. They go somewhere.
But I'm sure they do. I'm sure they
thank
do.
goodness for that.
I'm sure they do. Yep. Well, okay. So thanks, guys. Thank you very much. We're going to take a little transition here, and we're coming back with Cameron Gillis in Camstronomy.
So
Thank you, Dan. You have a great day. And Kent, thanks for putting all that stuff together. You know, that gentleman that that is providing all those images, we should talk to him. Maybe he would do a birding event for us at some point, you know, and take people around in a group.
I've asked him that already. He is not getting out of he's doing his own thing, but he's got some medical conditions that limit his. He probably would do some birding events, but he really doesn't want to be on camera. And
We don't have to put him on camera.
Yeah, we could do sound.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, and it would be I've been out taking pictures with him before, specifically the trumpeter swans.
Yeah.
And just he doesn't have super expensive gear. He doesn't have
Even better.
He doesn't have. I mean, he's got a Nikon D7100 that I talked him into buying, and a standard Nikon kit 300 millimeter zoom lens.
Yeah.
And everything he does is with off the shelf stuff. That's just standard stuff. He
captures the moment. That's for sure.
He spends the time every morning. He goes out and takes pictures. Every once in a while, he goes over to Buffalo River to shoot pictures of the elk. He's got the same pictures, same structures. He photographs every time. He's really fine-tuned his art simply by just doing it over and over and over again.
Sure.
And he's become very good at it. And I'll see if we can get him on sometime to talk about the joy he gets out of doing it and do a voice conversation because he's just and he's always been camera shy. Even when I took a
lot of
picture
photographers are.
Yeah.
A lot of photographers are.
They like being on that side of the camera. Anyway, I'm going to bow out. Everybody have a great week. See you tomorrow when we do First Light Chronicles.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good. See you then.
And I'm going to head off too. I do want to remind everybody about the astrophotography contest that's going on for Galaxy. So we just need to make sure we remind everybody.
This contest you don't have to shoot it with an Explore Scientific mount or Explore Scientific telescope. This is open to anyone, right, Annie?
Yes, it's open. It's open to anyone, and we have a new. We're putting a new category in there. I don't think we've even named it yet. But it's never before seen, never entered. You know, if you've never entered in a photography contest with us, we want you to do that, and we have a category just for that. So, yeah.
Very cool.
All right, Cameron, good to see you. Y'all have fun.
You bet. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Annie.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks,
Anna. I guess he's done. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Nice. All right. Hello, everyone. Here we go.
So we went from like color alignment to Explorer Alliance membership to birds to, and now we're back doing sky surveys with Cameron. So it's awesome. With two guys that have very little sleep right now. So we
totally
were up late last night.
Oh my gosh. About that, Scott. I mean, I've been having an embarrassment of riches with weather here in Seattle.
Yeah.
And as you know, you take any clear time you can get, right? And
right. Well, that's how you do it, right?
And then I now that I've got things figured out with my gear, I've just been going bonkers with taking sky survey pics, across all the objects. So I'm really getting a good headway as far as getting decent pictures of everything all the way down. Last night I was up until I hate to say, but I was until 4 o'clock.
Oh,
exactly. But I was imaging until around 3. So I took another, basically three solid hours after we finished the Global Star Party last night.
It was 2 o'clock in the morning for me. And
so
I had my dinner at 2:30. Was sleeping at 3 o'clock. So that was,
Yes.
But it was a great star party. It was another great star party. So, really enjoyed it. All those comments.
exactly. And you know, it's not sustainable. I mean, just honestly, we're human beings. I mean, but what I mean by that is I know that there's going to be some smoky nights coming. There's going to be some
Yeah.
rainy nights. So I'm just trying to grab whatever I can now and harvest it, and then I can get to it at some point where I can pick it up as a follow-up when it's rainy and smoky. So I'd feel really bad if I wasted some good nights, you know, not being able to do that. So, but there's a price to pay, and I'm just trying to make sure that I get some sleep out there. And
Yeah.
so here I am. I'm still fully enthusiastic. Don't worry. I'm having a blast too. I'm still having fun.
Oh
I had
yeah, good.
great night. I've been having some great nights because what I'll be sharing, I shared it a little bit last night, but I figured out the flats. Those flats that I shared that flat technique I shared last week. Let me just share my screen here. There we go. So if you recall, let's go down to here. Yeah, this thing here. So I was doing. Huh? Let me just go back here. Because I had another version. There we go. So if you recall, I had this where I had my telescope pointed against the flat screen monitor with a pillowcase over it, and I would calibrate the flat frame exposure time and also the brightness of the screen with a white presentation in PowerPoint.
Right.
And that basically, I must say, I got some really darn good flats, and here's one of them as an example, centered around the magic number of 24,000. And I can tell you that what you see here is exactly the results that I got out of this. I'm extremely pleased with, and I'll be sharing that in some of today's picks. But of course, once I did that, I was like, okay, now I'm going to start to continue my sky survey, and I went. You know, as you know, I was switching between smartphone, astro camera, and different configurations. But now I've went full blast with the astro camera with this setup with the flats, and I've got some decent pictures. I mean, they're not APOD or anything like that, but it's kind of more pleasing. Now you can actually see the image. It's much more enjoyable, and it's something worthy of putting in a catalog. You know, for everyone, so that when we go through the objects going forward in Camstronomy episodes, as we go through the constellations group by group, we'll have some nice consistent pictures that have a nice flat background. So let's dive in and actually show what happened. So just to summarize where we're at, we're still have the visual observations, the 821 objects I've been going through so far in our episodes to date. I've shared, we've explored together 71 images of 65 objects. So we're almost 10%. So after today, will be roughly 10% of the objects. So we're getting a good clip, but it's also very nice that going forward, you're going to start to see more consistent and good, decent quality pictures as we go through. And of course, I'll still supplement that with smartphone as required. But I can tell you that from a workflow and an overall enjoyment, it's kind of like with the clear skies. I'm liking to keep my imaging rig set up as is, so I can literally just pull out the telescope already set up with everything focused, you know, just a little bit of tweaking on focus every night. The polar alignment's great. The image train is already calibrated. The filters are all in place. So basically, I just take my scope outside, and I can right away start imaging within 15 minutes, which is nice. And then
Which
I
is
set
really
myself,
fast, actually. That's great.
which is really fast. And then I go inside. And I go outside occasionally if I need to change filters. So let's go back to my, oops, I'm gonna skip ahead to my setup just to explain something here. So what I've discovered, so this is my setup again. And so what I do is I've discovered in my recordings that anytime I'm doing galaxies, I use the IR cut filter. That gives me the full broadband spectrum, but it's cutting off the infrared heat, so it reduces the glow and the noise. So that's a really good filter, and it works very well for galaxies. And then any extended nebulosity, even planetary nebula, this is actually good because planetary nebula have very high intensity, so you don't really need to filter out the light pollution as much. But when you do extended objects, anything larger than 10 arc seconds, let's say, you'll want to use the UHC, and that really makes the images pop. And I'm very happy. So what I've done is I've actually done a set of flats for this setup because more light is coming through. So you need to have a different set of flats when you're using an IR cut filter. And then I've done another set of flats with my infrared. So just as an example, my flats with the broadband that lets in more light, I had the brightness on the monitor set to 10%. And my images were the images that I took, the flats, were half a second exposures. So I took 20 half a second exposures with 10% brightness on the screen. Contrast that to the UHC. When I put the UHC and did my flats, the UHC, I used 2 second exposures, like 4 times the length, and I bumped up the screen brightness up to 70%. So that gives you an idea, the difference and how significant and the importance of having a different set of flats for different filters. Because if you don't do that right, you're going to be off, and it's going to throw off, and your images are going to be all weird when you start stacking. So so anyhow, I've got that. Now I've got my set, so I can easily now switch. I can go inside, set this up in 15 minutes. I got an extension cord outside to plug in the Wi-Fi and the ASIF probe. And then basically, and the other thing I discovered that was a real loss of time and frustration was this mount. As you can see, it's pointing roughly, let's say it's pointing 45-degree angle here on altitude. Once this starts to track above 60, something happens where it just loses the Wi-Fi connection. It just, and then I have to recalibrate. So that's really frustrating. And I was wondering why it seemed to happen randomly. Some nights I'd be able to go like 6 hours and no problems. And
It sounds
then I find
maybe Wi-Fi interference. What do you think?
I did think that. So I got new cables and I got shielded cables, and that was part of it. But here's the thing. I found out it is Wi-Fi interference, but there's something in the mount mechanism with the Celestron evolution that once you go above 60, I don't know whether it's the gear system in here that opens up a little, maybe there's some sort of Wi-Fi, I'm an RF engineer, so maybe there's some intermodulation, there's some interference, there's certain gap that's a distance that causes basically an antenna tuning. So causes some interference to leak into the Wi-Fi. That's what I'm thinking it might be. But regardless, I have now consistently found that when and I especially discovered this because I was taking pictures in my sky survey of Cygnus. And if you look, let's go to Sky Safari. Now, if I go zoom out here. So if you look where Cygnus is, it's like, okay, let's see where Cygnus is. So here's Cygnus. And let's go 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. So here we go. Let's zoom in. So it's to the east. And you can see there's a nice swath of juicy stuff along here, along the Milky Way. If you look at the altitude, you see 55 degrees, 56. And if I was tracking, all of a sudden, like I'd be on the Crescent Nebula, and then as soon as it went over 60, boom, it would drop. And I was like, wait a minute. So I started seeing that with that, and of course I was taking pictures of the elephant trunk and other, and they all just around that sweet spot, so that if you're tracking it, even though you're going on one axis on the altitude axis instead of both axes, once you pass that 60, it's like there you go. It just goes. The other thing I found when I was doing my star alignment if Deneb, for example, was one of my calibrations on my 3 stars, once it was over 60, the mount would go weird. Once I go, it would start to lose command. Like I'd send a command, let's say, and then it would start to run away. It would start to just keep on going, and that caused actually a risk of striking the mount. So that was not good either. So anyway, I put all this together, and I can tell you now, and that's why I was up so late the last couple of nights to kind of make up for that as well. I found out that, hey, as long as I stay ahead of the Earth's rotation, below 60 degrees, and I give myself some buffer. So I usually, the highest I'll go is 55, because what will happen is the mount, whenever it's tracking on a go-to, it goes like this up, and then it goes, say I'm going to NGC 7027, it will go up, and then we'll go do adjustment down here. So we'll compensate, because that's the way where the gears mesh. So it would always overshoot, and then it would correct. That overshooting, if that happens to go over 60 degrees, bang, I'd lose my wireless connection, even when I'm doing star alignment. So that's how I was able to figure this out. I don't want to do any more troubleshooting. I just see the symptoms, and I'm avoiding the symptoms now. And I can tell you that last couple of nights, I've got it. So I'm going to continue now. So what I've done last night is I stayed well ahead in the 30 to 40 degree altitude, and I did Cassiopeia. I did all this stuff in here last night. So that was a really good run. And on the flip side, if I go back out here, on the flip side, on the setting side, the other night, I was able to get, let's see, here we go. I love Galaxy, so I was able to actually, before it goes away, I was able to get a good chunk of, I actually finished Canis Venatici. I finished all the galaxies in here, so I got images of all these guys. So that's a good chunk. And then I also started doing the Big Dipper, not Big Dipper, Ursa Major, and started working on there. And I finished Booties as well. So I have all the images, and they're all recorded in my directories here. And these are all the nights. So you can see, if you look at the dates, I've had pretty much consecutive days over the last week of really good imaging. So these are all the images I've taken, and they're now, after I've taken the images and filed them in the night, then what I do is I create a PowerPoint summary. So for example, these are the images from July 3rd and 4th. If I open up that file, so I'm going through the sausage factory a little bit, but I think it's important for people to learn and see a little bit on the process side on what I'm doing, because a big part of maintaining the enjoyment and also being able to share and get everyone to really maximize your time is the organization piece. And if you start to see the thought process, hopefully people can take advantage of some of the tips I have here to make their experience that much more enjoyable. So so here's an example. So what I do is I would have all the different, I created a new format where I have the title of the object at the top, and I have the date and the timestamp. And the timestamp of this matches actually the file name, which is nice. So that way, when I pull them in, if I go 734, I can match all of those with the actual timestamp in the title of that, because when you save a picture, either with a snapshot or a screenshot, it has the date 2021, 0703, and then this is 11/23/57, and it even has seconds. So it's very, very, very helpful. And this is a scientific part that Kent was referring to, and of course Jerry, to be able to record your observations and track it. So this makes it very, very helpful, because in the future, and that's a big part of this. This is a sky survey, so you never know. There might be something, maybe I caught an object, in one of these images. Who knows?
That's true.
And
That's
I
true.
can go back.
You never know when some faint nova or some transient thing happen, and then you can go back and see pre-discovery information.
exactly. And then, you know, I'm not out to like for fame to try to discover something, but
Sure.
you know, the way it works is if you do this, you know, you might be able to contribute or at least verify somebody's observations or whatever it happens to be. So that's part of the fun too, to be able to go back and have that, you know. So basically all of these are here, and then I've once I've finished putting them into here, then I've been going and transferring to another file. Let me go back here. I have a master file, oops, which is called a catalog. I've just started to work on this, and this is going to be the end product of all this. It's going to be a catalog of every constellation. So if I go to that file, if I go here, the way the file is organized is it has every constellation, Bootes, Libra, etc. All of these are actually in the same sequence that they are in my sky survey. So I started in Bootes a year ago, more than a year ago, then I was Libra, and I continued to go down. And now I'm just starting to fill in those with the appropriate pictures. So for example, Sagittarius is one that I've been working on most recently. I have to catch up with the other stuff, but Sagittarius is the most clean right now. And you can see Sagittarius, these are the objects that I've categorized as best and brightest in the sky survey out of the 800 or so objects. And then in the order that you see them, I have each object, one picture per object now. I had originally some earlier pictures, but I'm going to regroom them with the best in breed. So, you know, some of these older ones that have the vignetting and stuff, and I'll talk about that. I'm going to discard those. They're still in my records, but I'm not going to put them in the catalog. The catalog is only going to have the latest, best picture for each object, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And that keeps the file size down. I'm not duplicating, I'm not wasting time, but at least now it's much more manageable. So that's where we're at. So with that said, now we can go into the sky survey itself. And let me go to the beginning here. So continuing right along. So, oh, I have to get it out of there and then do it again. Oops, sorry, no, sorry about that. Yeah, I guess if you already have a PowerPoint, it has to recalibrate. Okay, here we go. So today we're going to continue. The last thing we did was the Omega Nebula at the end of the session last time. Now we're going to dive into the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and this is not in a prime location here at my latitude at 47 degrees north. It's in the mud. So when you're doing visual observations, you need to have pretty good surface brightness to be able to eke out them. So these are the only ones that made the cut. If you go south, and you know, you guys in the southern states, you have an advantage, probably have at least another 10 degrees of altitude, which is going to really help you. And of course, the southern hemisphere guys, they got this directly overhead, so you're going to be able to see even more. But these are just the best, and I can tell you that the visual versus the imaging with filters and with all this capability, boy, oh boy, you can really get a lot more pleasing views at these high latitudes that I'm at with filters and with imaging of the same objects that I visually observed. For example, some of these globular clusters that are down here at the bottom of the teapot in Sagittarius, they look like really mushy. And of course also the seeing conditions, the atmosphere is just bouncing all over the place. So you really get a fuzzy stars. Sometimes the stars actually start looking like galaxies, like faint galaxies. So you have to be careful that you're not misconstruing a fuzzy star
Right.
for the actual object. So you really need to know what you're looking at. So having said that, with the imaging, I'm happy to say that it does a pretty good job. It's not awesome, but it's a much better experience overall. So if you're in the same situation as I am, imaging is going to really help you with these types of objects. So with that said, 27 pictures. We got lots of pictures because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to show you the evolution of some of these pictures because I had some earlier versions before I did the flats and figured that out. But we're going to only cover 15 objects. It's more than we've covered previously, but Sagittarius has a lot of juicy stuff. There's actually 30 objects. They're going to be another 15 next week. We're going to do. So but we're going to get right into it. So let's. This is where we left off last week with the Eagle Nebula and Pillars of Creation. This is the new picture I took. So if you look at this this image here, you can see some vignetting.
Oh yeah.
But now if you look at this picture, it's a nice and flat, and you see that nebulosity extending more to the edges, which is
So you showed
quite
this
a bit
last night.
nicer.
That's the same picture, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Huge
it's
difference.
it's a huge difference, right? I mean, and it really has that wow factor. And this is not an APOD, it's but I can tell you
A
that
very nice image.
it's not bad, right? I mean, it's pretty good to be able
Yeah.
to do this and consistently. That's the key, is to be able to have the confidence when you have flats covered at your back and you've done that and you got those. The nice part about flats is you don't have to worry about the temperature of the sensor, and you can because it's bright enough, the noise is already in the mud, so you're already have a high enough signal. You're just looking at the curvature around this 24,000 range. So when you have some flats, you can reuse them infinitely. So it's very important to get some good flats. The reason why you'd have to redo flats is two. One, you have a different filter, so you're changing the actual brightness that gets to the sensor. That's one. And the other part is you're changing the image train. So anything in the image train, you change the focal length, you change the telescope. Obviously, anything that changes the image train, you have to do a new flat. But once you have it for that configuration, you've got it. The only other thing other than that is if you have dust motes that cause some distortion, some darkening in some spots. Luckily, as you can see from my flat, I'm just gonna pull it up here. I don't have it yet, but in the future, I might start having dust motes which kind of look like little rings. The flats will take out the dust motes as well. So you won't have those weird dust rings. So if you start to see dust coming through, don't over clean your sensor. Don't touch your sensor. Don't play around with it. Just leave it, and then just take a new set of flats, and then you'll get rid of those dust motes. But for now, I have a clean, brand new sensor, so I'm enjoying it, and I'm keeping it sealed, so I don't need to get it open and exposed to dust. So let's go into the actual survey now. So that was a very long prelude but I figured I wanted to cover that stuff first as we go through this. So here's the Omega Nebula. This was taken on June 26th, and let's go to M17. Let's go to the sky survey. Let's go back down here. Okay, so we are down in Sagittarius, and right at the edge, right just south of the Eagle Nebula, you got the Omega Nebula, M17, magnitude 6, so it's really bright. And I can tell you, as low as this is, highly recommended for anyone. You think Orion Nebula is good? Orion Nebula is good. Okay, I would even categorize the Omega Nebula as probably the second most brightest intense in the northern hemisphere. I don't know if you agree, Scott, but I think Omega Nebula is right up there, where even on a full moon or whatever, it has such a high ionization that you can see some structure in it, even in small.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So I can highly recommend that one.
Oh yeah.
I remember the first time I was super surprised. I was looking at the lagoon, and I was like, oh, lagoon is kind of washed out, right? And it's not so.
See this? I mean, the really kind of core part of that nebulosity is so bright,
Yes.
and it makes that either that kind of omega shape, because it's called the Omega Nebula, or the swan is also what it's called. And
Yes.
so it's spectacular. You throw in on top of that something like a UHC filter, or and then this other nebulosity also pops out, and it's just wow.
Yes, and it's very, very rewarding. because it can take a lot of power as well. So if you have a Mac, we were talking about 5-inch Macs last night. If you got a good mount and you're able to track, you can really have a nice view and pump up the power on this and see some really nice structure. These dust streaks here that cut across, they're very pronounced. It's almost like M82, the dust lanes. That's how contrasty they are. This guy here is 4.2 thousand light years away, so he's in the obviously within our galaxy, in the center, in the direction of our core. And then if we look at, this is the first picture I took. Well, this is the next one I took. Now, what happened? You wonder, okay, well, what happened? I have some big netting here. This looks like a better picture than this one. And the reason why is I got my image train and it's like, oh, I got the right back focus. So if you look carefully, you can't really tell in these pictures, but this actually has the proper back focus. Okay, so this had when I took this picture, I actually had a shorter focal length. And so what was happening is I didn't have enough back spacing, but it still took a pretty decent picture as far as. But here, when I added more, it caused, as you move the image train further back, the vignetting became more pronounced. Now, obviously, I did some stretching here to bring out the nebulosity, but you can see a couple of things. You can see this line noise, and you can also see the vignetting. But then I got my flats, and look at this.
Look at that.
I mean, it's like
really nice.
When you see that type of result, it just like you're going to be up until 4 o'clock at night.
I mean, you're doing all this work. Were you surprised to see it come out this well?
Yeah. I changed my my expectations as you go through this journey. You start to really start to reset your expectations and really set yourself up for disappointment. So it's not going to be good. It's going to be junk. It's going to whatever. There's going to be some other thing I have to figure out. and so when I got this, it was like, oh man, that is the cat's meow, right? I mean, this is the sweet spot. So this was just that last tweak, which is a big one. It's kind of like anything. You're building the pieces, and then this is the cornerstone. You got to put this in to be able to really get all the benefits of all the other stuff you've done.
Right.
So unless you do this, but you can't. If you just do this and you don't take care of the mount tracking and all the other stuff, it won't matter either. Now you're going to have incremental issues. But I kind of was working on all the other issues first. So then when I lifted the veil on this, it kind of just revealed all the stuff that I did before as a culmination to get it, get my image trained properly, my back focuses, the filters, the tracking, stacking, all that kind of stuff. All that paid off because now, as soon as I got these flats inserted, bang, it was like, oh, I'm so happy. So really, really happy with this. So now for going forward, like I say, I'm going to start to discard all the other ones and then start to overlay and just do this. And this is another reason the workflow of being able to do this now that I can just keep on reusing those flats is just wonderful. I can reuse the flats. I can reuse the darks and the biases. I still have to do some work on those because those are temperature dependent. But then basically, and then I can comfortably and reliably get rewarding pictures as I'm going through. So the experience is almost like a visual experience, the same feeling you get when you're looking through it yourself and you're getting that feedback, right? That real-time feedback to be able to say, yeah, this is nice, and you can enjoy it. You're not just only processing, you're able to enjoy it as you get it. That's where I'm getting to, and so if you can do this and follow this,
these kinds of things are not chores. They may seem like it when you first get into it, but when you see what's going on in the whole, this whole process, and things just pop and they're improved, and there's I don't want to call it like a moment of pride. It is. It's a moment of where you see, what this process is taking you,
justification. I think
Yeah,
self-justification.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it
And
justifies.
it's a joy. It is.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Scott. No, it really is. And it's nice to share that so that people can be encouraged and go on that path as well, because it's
Sure.
really, really good. So here's let's move on to M18. So M18 is just a little south. That's a nice little cluster, magnitude 6.9. And if I go check out it, probably gonna, yeah, it's right beside, it's the same distance, 4.2 thousand light years, same distance as the Swan or Omega Nebula. Nice little cluster. I didn't take an updated picture. It still has the vigneting, but very pleasing cluster to look. A nice grouping of stars. This is an example. It's kind of like looking at any natural wonder. Open clusters are best seen live. I mean, you to be able to look through an eyepiece and then look at the colors and look at the sharp stars, tack sharp, especially with a refractor. Open clusters are really beautiful things. It's difficult to capture that experience in an image because it's like, oh, that's nice. It's just a bunch of stars. You know, although when I'm going to retake these with my flat technique. I didn't do this one yet. I was focusing on the main objects. But when you take these open clusters with the flats and you have really nice, it starts to almost replicate that feeling when you look through it. So this is the M18. Similarly, you can tell this is a beautiful cluster because it has the 6645, which is right. Oops, I have to go to. Let's go back to 6645. 6645 a little to the east. That guy is. It's just a little bit of a lag here. Magnitude 8.5. So it's at the sweet spot of cluster distance or a cluster brightness. Once you go below 8.5 or 8 magnitude 8, the clusters start to become quite faint. So if you look at this, 4.1 thousand light years, and it has a nice. I love these dense and these rich clusters. Very nice speckling, very pleasing eye to the eye, and then multiple colors, yellow, and then again I'll take a new picture with the flats. But for now, this is what I have. M25, again another bright cluster as we're going south. M25 magnitude 4.6, very bright because it has a number of very bright members in its group. 2,000 light years away. There's the image on, and then this is the image I took, again without any flats, but it has a nice grouping. It has some bright stars in the foreground with a nice speckling here. Trumpler 33. Trumpler 33, very small. Magnitude 7.8, and it is this is one of the further ones, 5.7 thousand light years away. So here's a nice grouping again. It has that bright. I love the clusters that have a couple of bright members, and then they have some fainter members in behind. That's a nice three-dimensional effect when you visually observe it. So this is a nice one with a nice bright yellow star in the front. The Sagittarius star cloud. This is a nice one with a rich field telescope. Highly recommended as you're scanning the Milky Way, either with binoculars or an ED80 or such. You can see it's well outside the the range of this image circle. But if I zoom in, I took an image here, and there's some embedded in this star cloud, which is a densification of the Milky Way. There's a couple of clusters like this one here. If I click on that, see, this is a magnitude 11 open cluster.
Yeah.
And if I look at that information, it's 12,000 light years away. And here's the image, of course, that was taken. But if you look here, I actually caught it. You can see a nice clustering. So it's a very nice, very pleasing to see these kind of concentrations of small stars, and that's very, very nice. And then the star cloud itself, if I go back here and I click on the star cloud, it's magnitude 4.6 because it's a large area. So that's why this bright magnitude. And, in a dark sky, you'll see this with the naked eye. And it's, where is it? Oh, it doesn't say the distance. Oh, well,
Which object is it?
it's the star cloud, Sagittarius star cloud. So it must have a large variety
Yeah.
of distances because it's a lot of stars over a large area. So it's probably in that same range as these clusters here, 10,000, because it's in the direction of the center of the galaxy. Okay,
Yeah,
next
you're
one.
right. About 10,000 light years.
10,000. All right, thanks.
Hmm.
And then here's another view of the star cloud. Oh yeah, I don't know what happened to there. Anyhow. Oh yeah, so this was with the flats. So you can see the difference, the vignetting, and now with the flats, you can see all the stars start to come out much more. So this is a more pleasing view with the flats. This one here, 6590, is a fairly bright nebula just to the south of the star cloud. And if I zoom into that, magnitude 7, so it's quite bright, and it's small, so it's pretty concentrated. So that magnitude 7 makes it pretty easy to see. It doesn't say this the distance of this one, but if you look, this is my first picture, kind of out of focus. The seeing conditions weren't good on the 29th, and you can barely see the fuzziness. It doesn't show up, but now look at this. This is with the flats, and you can see actually the nebulosity here.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are other. You can see that. You can see a big chunk of the nebulosity here.
Like that wall there.
And then you can see these guys too, and you can see the reflection nebula of this. This comes up. This is very pronounced when you see this visually. It's very distinct. You'll see these two stars that are close together with some fuzziness around it. So it's very much what you see in this. You won't see these guys that easily visually, but you'll see this one, 6590. Oops. 6567. Moving along is now moving down. Or is it, up here. That's a planetary nebula. Its magnitude's 10.9. And that one is 4.4 thousand light years away. That's pretty close by in the pack. Here it's too small to pick up. You'll see it's basically, if you zoom in, let's say, if you look at these, it's hard to pick out the stars, but see these, this is probably the best pattern. You see this pattern here? That's this pattern here. So if you follow this up, the nebula will be right around there. So it's one of these guys here. I don't know which one. So I'd have to have a longer focal length to be able to eke that out. But this is where visual observation is better, because the optics, when you can resolve and see if seeing is steady enough and you're able to see airy disks on the stars, you'll be able to easily distinguish a planetary nebula from a stellar star. And that's what I was actually able to see. This looked like a fuzzy star, but it didn't take a very good picture here. Oops. Red Spider Nebula. Let's see here, right here. I was like, hey, that's a cool name. I wonder how it looks. 11.9 magnitude. And if we look at the information, 6.2 thousand light years away. So it's a little bit deeper in. And this is with the smartphone. And I actually could pick it up. You can see this, you can actually see this, a little bit of fuzziness extending. And that's pretty much the extent of what you see visually. The smartphone actually does a pretty good job. This is my first picture with the Astro Imager. You can see the light pollution is very bad. Doesn't really show up very well. Here it starts to show up. Same thing. Still before I did the imaging flats. Finally, I applied the flats. So here's the flats. And if you can see, if I zoom right in, it's right. You can see these two extensions here.
Okay.
You definitely wouldn't want to have a better image. I really blew it out, but you can see this is what you see visually is you kind of see this.
Yeah, you got that structure there.
A little bit of structure. Now, obviously, this is one of those objects I'd like to come back to. I got a good wide field shot of the area, and I know where it is. This is the Red Spider Nebula, but it obviously would screams for higher focal length and better image scale to be able to eke out the delicate structure of this one. So that will be a fun project in the future when I have either a Barlow or a better image, a higher resolution imager. So then we got N23, a large open cluster, magnitude 5.5. That one is 2,000 light years away. You can see it's embedded with a lot of Milky Way nebulosity in the background. Doesn't show up, of course, in my picture, but you can see it's nice to be able to see the visuals plate solved. It's exactly this arc of stars is exactly the same here. It's a very pleasing cluster. Now we go to the Crescent Nebula. So moving a little bit more to the east, or to the west, I should say. Moving magnitude 10.9, so quite bright. And it has planet-head nebula in general are really great because they're usually they're very high surface brightness. This one here is 6.8 thousand light years away. And oops, I don't want to. So this is what I did with the smartphone. You could barely see this kind of box light structure here with this highly overexposed segment of my smartphone pic. This is a little bit more improved before I did imaging flats, and you can start to see the very clear crescent shape. And again, this is not to be confused with the Crescent Nebula, obviously in Cygnus, which is the large brain-shaped structure arc. This is actually a planetary nebula compared to supernova remnant. So this one, yeah, and if we go to the last image, I'm really happy with this because once you start applying the flats, this is a good example of what flats buy you, besides just making the screen or the whole image more flat and being able to eke out, you know, a darker background and better contrast. The result of all that is you can imagine you have on this picture, you have different signal to noise at all these different. So what happens is if you blow it out here to get the nebulosity here, you're gonna make this too bright. If you make this the right color or the right brightness, then this is going to be too dark, and you're not going to pick anything out. As soon as you do this with a flat, you got all your signal to noise,
all that range.
get all that range. It's all focused. And look at this. Look at the structure I'm able to get inside of here. I'm really tickled pink. You can
look at the left side. There's like a loop of nebulosity.
Yeah, you can see kind of the shock wave, if you will, of this side. You can see a rainbow almost on this side, from red to violet, or to green to blue, yellow blue, and then you have this, and then you even have some. It looks like there's some stars and even some tendrils, some structure here, and some of the other fainter stars. So pretty darn good. Again, to be able to image this with low resolution as a is pretty good. Planetary nebula are hard with a large image sensor, but I was happy to get this level of detail. 6568. Let's see here. 8 magnitude 8.6. Oops. That one's 3.3 thousand light years away, and a nice grouping of stars. Actually, not a grouping. This is a nice, fairly rich cluster of equally bright stars with some fainter ones in behind. So that's a very pleasing one. M21, magnitude 5.9, and 3.9 thousand light years. As you can see, we're getting close to the Trifid Nebula. It's very close by. Here's M21 here. And if we look at that, yeah, a very pleasing sprinkle. You have some nice bright stars, and then you have the depth of field with the fainter ones in behind. That's a nice combo. And here's the a better picture of it, but it's still not with flats, but a little bit. Oh, sorry. And now the Trifid Nebula. Okay, Trifid Nebula. Actually, give me a second. I need to take a quick bio break. Give me
Okay,
30 seconds.
sure. Okay, so in the meantime, while Cameron's taking a break here, I will talk a little bit about next week's Global Star Party. We have Caitlin Ahrens from Goddard Space Flight Center. Now, next week on Tuesday is the, I think it's the 52nd anniversary of the Apollo moon landing, or 53rd. I'll have to go back and check. But anyways, it was July 20th when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. It was a super exciting time. I just turned 10 years old and had, just on the edge of my seat, watching this this landing happen, with Walter Cronkite on the news, and my whole family and our whole neighborhood was watching this, as I guess was the whole rest of the world. But we're planning, we are planning to go back to the moon and then on to Mars. And, there's a date set in 2024. However, I think if you ask the people in the spaceflight community, will it actually happen in 2024? Maybe not that soon, but they are still pushing the needle towards heading that way. And so that's, there's a lot of challenges that are involved as far as, trying to create a habitat, because the idea is to go and set up a colony on the moon, and to inhabit the moon, I guess, on a full-time basis with humans. And that would be kind of a, really the next stepping off point with the maybe from the Gateway orbiter that will be going around the moon to start to play out what it will be like to actually travel to Mars. So, but some of these people will be on Tuesday, including senior astronomer Seth Shostak from the SETI organization. And you would think, well, those guys are out there looking, for life with, radio telescopes and stuff, but they are interested in all aspects of exploring space. And of course, with the idea that they would find some sort of hint of life out there. So, and Seth, if you've never heard Seth give a talk, he is absolutely hilarious, very articulate, very sharp, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So, are you back at this point?
You bet. You bet.
Okay.
Thanks a
turning
lot.
it back over to you.
That's really cool. Actually, I have a hard stop in 9 minutes, so I'll be able to finish it. Thanks for doing that, Scott. That's
Sure.
cool. So okay, so we are now at the last two objects, which are actually the highlight that I am excited and to share. And here is the Trifid Nebula M20. And if you look at that guy from a location perspective, it's magnitude 6.3. The nebulosity, magnitude 6.3, big part of it is because it's around that there's some bright stars that ignite the ionized nebulosity. So don't be fooled by that brightness. It's actually quite faint, hard, very elusive visually for smaller telescopes. You need to have a dark sky, then it will really pop. But it's very sensitive to the sky glow. And being so low, I can tell you that I only had one good view visually of the Trifid with my 18-inch Dobsonian on a good dark night, and then I could see actually visually I could actually see the nebulosity, the Trifid part of the dark nebulosity. But otherwise, with smaller scope, it's very, very hard. Having said that, let's take a look at the specs. It is 5.2 thousand light years away.
Hmm.
And it's a nice nebula because it actually shows you 3 different types of nebula. It has it has a reflection nebula up here, the blue nebula, which is blue. It has an ionized emission nebula around being ignited by these stars, and it has some dark nebulosity cutting across it. So it's really neat from that perspective to be able
Yeah,
to
the
see all.
Trifid itself, right?
Yeah, and the trifid itself. Yeah, so
Mhm.
now this is the before, and now look at this. It's like
Wow.
your eyes have to your eyes have to adjust. It's almost like when you have this, it's like there's a spotlight, and then all of a sudden it's like
Bam. Yeah.
I actually as I'm showing you this, and I flick back and forth, I still see the it's like a spotlight, you know. But
Mhm.
now you let your eyes adjust. You see how flat this is, and I'm very, very happy. Look at you can see more structure. You can see the reflection nebula, nice, beautiful contrast, and just the whole overall view is more pleasing because you have all the stars right to the edge,
Right.
filling the field. So
Well, you can also see very subtle hints of other nebulosity in the field, all the way across the field. So,
yeah, and you start to pick out this type of structure, very
Mhm.
easy because it's nice and contrasty. You start to see the edges of the nebulosity and how this dark nebulosity actually wisps. You see these wisps, you can almost see it as an overlay. You can see through it, semi-transparent. You can see how this tendrils of dark nebulosity is superimposed on this emission nebula. So it's really gives you an almost 3D effect. So very happy with that. Similarly, the Lagoon Nebula, our last one. And let's see here, where are we going? Lagoon Nebula. It is, this little, there we go. Magnitude 6, quite bright again. But the reason why it's so bright is because there's a center, what they call the hourglass, right here.
Yeah.
Which is very bright, and you'll see this with any telescope, even in brighter skies with bad light pollution or moonlit skies. You'll see the hourglass. That's pretty much all you'll see most of the time. But if you're lucky, you start to see a little bit more, and that's part of the fun. You set your expectations low initially, look for the hourglass, and say, okay, that's nice. It's not going to be like the Orion Nebula. Orion Nebula is unique. Even in moonlit sky, you can see a big chunk around the trapezium. But Lagoon is much more humble, especially because it's lower on the horizon. But anyhow, it's 4.3 thousand light years. And if you see here, you see the lagoon, and you see the nebulosity is extending, but you can see the vignetting as well. This is distracting.
Right.
Well, guess what? Bang. Look at this. With a flat, you see a lot of things. First of all, right off the bat, the brain says, this is nice. It's a lot nicer, right off the bat. Second thing, you'll see this nebulosity extending right to the edge of the frame, right, including some of these structures out here, and some of these dark nebulosities. And then the other thing you'll notice is the detail in the center. So, and even the color, you can see the colors start to go. You can see this greenish tinge on these outer areas, and then of course you have the red and the yellow. So it's a very I'm very, very happy to be able to take a picture at if I look at the latitude. Let's go back out here. I'll tell you the altitude from my latitude. So if I center it, I'm only 24 degrees off the horizon, right? That's not much. So you can see visually, it's always a challenge.
Starting
Also,
to get down in the muck. That's true.
It's really in the muck, yeah. And I can tell you, that's what makes it hard. But for any of you guys, your southern states, you already have an advantage. Of course, the southern hemisphere, fantastic, and a dark sky is even better. But this is one of those objects that it's a beautiful object, and in the dark sky, you'll be able to see this. But with filters, this was with a UHC filter and with flats, to be able to do this from my location, I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm really happy. I've never seen such such detail. So it's for myself, that is. So yeah, so that's basically it. So I've got to actually go to a work meeting in a couple of meetings in a couple
Okay.
minutes. But really, thanks a lot, Scott. And I really hope everyone got a lot of good tidbits and tips to help your journey that much more enjoyable. And
Yeah.
one more thing I'll leave behind: flats, flats, flats. Get those flats. If you're going to go to astro imaging, you got to get those flats. It's going to make your whole experience so nice.
Yes. Great.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Yeah. Billy Fisher is on. Maybe you got time for one quick question. How
Sure.
important are how important are it? I've got cut filters to get true color from a color can.
Yes, I think that's important because any filter reduces the noise coming into the sensor. So just imagine, if you don't have that, if you have just a full open camera, you're letting all that out of band noise increase the amount of energy that's hitting the sensor. And so when you're heating up the sensor essentially, so that dark area. So by putting any filter, it's going to automatically help your noise, reduce the noise.
Okay. All right. We're going to let you go, Cameron.
All right.
You got a job to do. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Okay.
We'll be in touch. Okay. Cheers. Thanks,
Take care.
Scott.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks to our audience here. We'll be back tomorrow, back with Kent Martz and First Light Chronicles. And, we've got more programming coming your way. So you guys have a great night. Hope it's clear wherever you are. I think it's going to be clear here, and I think I'm going to be out doing a little bit of observing myself. So you guys have fun, and we'll talk to you later.
And this is what I want to say to people, to beings, to consciousness who are so far away, I can't even imagine them.
To represent our culture accurately, we should include hopelessness, risk-taking, the role of fortune, good or bad.
To understand each desire has an edge, to know that we are responsible for the lives we change. No faith comes without cost. No one believes without dying. There are no curses, only mirrors held up to the souls of gods and mortals.
Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe. This universe is you.
I would just like to say that this wonderful emissary to the Trojan asteroids is itself a message. Lucy speaks for all that is best about human ingenuity, curiosity, and endeavor.
Do you still have birds that wake you up in the morning with their singing, and lovers who gaze at the stars, trying to read in them the fate of their love? If you do, we'll recognize one another.
And receive those words inscribed on a plaque from all of us, for all of us, filled with those aspirations and that inspiration and that imagination that we need so much right now.
A little noisy, but I'm so excited. Lucy is going back in the sky with diamonds. Johnny will love that. Anyway, if you meet anyone up there, Lucy, give them peace and love from me.